and thank you all for joining Inside Source's Workplace Live Chat. The current climate has been a catalyst for change and forcing companies to revisit the intersection of people, places, and policies. Over the past weeks, we've discussed the immediate impacts our industry has faced, yet today's discussion, we want to explore a different angle focusing on future state. Today, we have partnered with IA San Francisco, who will be sharing with us their take on the future of architecture and design in the workplace and the ideas that push the boundaries of traditional design. So today we have Aaron Wong, an award-winning principal and design director for IA, who has 35 years of experience working for public and private clients across the globe. And he's been leading his team with a very unique approach and perspective on what the future holds for our industry. So Aaron, thanks for being on today. I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce your team and your presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's time. I'm Aaron Wong, as Liz mentioned. I want to introduce to you Michelle DeBestian, Senior Designer, as well as Steve Grocheski, Senior Designer at IA as well. We wanted to, as designers, we're creative and we just want to design something. And given all of the pandemic talk about what the workplace is going to be like going back to work and what the workplace might be in the future, we just felt like all of that talk wanted to have a visual to it. So we made up some rules and we broke some rules, but we also wanted to design a visual to all of the things that we're hearing. We did some research, we debated, and we also then agreed that we felt that we're very positive about the work environment. Couple rules we had when we embarked on this adventure. One was you will not see one 6-foot circle in the plan. And the second one was that we have to have fun. So with that, Michelle and Stephen, take it away.
All right, let me share my screen and I'll have Michelle kick it off.
So as Aaron mentioned, we really wanted to kind of, there's a lot of really great discussions that have been going on amongst everybody in the design community. And we really wanted to take all of these ideas and take it to the next step and start to imagine and conceptualize what does the workplace of the future mean and what does it actually look and feel like, not just what are the features, but what does it mean to move throughout your day and what does the space start to feel like. So we've conceptualized a plan, an actual space that we'd like to walk you through. And we looked at things like the agile workforce, knowing that there's going to be some remote and some in office, and how do we bring people into the office and have them have a community space that they can share, and then what technology goes along with that, not only current technology, but technology that's being developed right now to address some of the concerns. And then health and wellness, we know obviously is very much at the forefront of everything that we're looking at and everything that we're doing. And so we've embedded that into the design of the space. And we really do feel we wanted to create something that was really uplifting and inspiring, because we really do see the future of the office as very bright. So we talk a lot about balance, and it's really, balance in many different ways. I think, if we start to look back at the traditional office and where we're coming from, most of us were mostly in the office. Few remote workers, depending on the type of work that you did, but most of us were spending a majority of our time in office. And then shoot to today, and obviously it's completely flipped, where we're almost entirely remote, very few people going into the office. And there's been some successes and some drawbacks to that situation. And we'd like to take some of the positives and bring them back to, as we move into the future, bring them with us so that we sort of take the lessons learned and really create a combination of having remote work being supported so that we can have that, get closer to that work-life balance, but still have a reason to come into the office and have a lot of the amenities that people need and things that you can't necessarily get when you're working remotely. Some of the drivers that we looked at are flexibility. So depending on the size of space that our future tenants are going to be looking at, we want to make sure that that space really works hard for them. So increasing flexibility is very key. And then the technology, as we mentioned before, getting embedded into that. We know there's a lot of advances coming in communication technology. We want to make sure we're creating an environment to support that. And then, as I mentioned before, health and wellness is going to be embedded in everything that we do. And I think some of the more, and even more importantly, looking at culture and that human connection, that is definitely a lesson learned. It's really great that we're able to, you know, see everybody's backgrounds and get a sense of who they are, and bringing that humanity and humanness back into the office and creating a culture around that, and you know, really celebrating what makes each of our offices individual and special.
And then we wanted to look at really what does that all mean? So what does that kind of, what does that kind of office look like? What does that exactly mean? So we talked a lot internally about different project goals that we would have for this. So we wanted to look at some of the different points. So the arrival, what does that really mean? What does a welcoming and safe environment with cleansing opportunities from street to office really look like? We wanted to think about the workplace in a different way, open office work points that allow for expansion and contraction of workers in the office. And also definitely on the forefront of our minds was increasing that kind of enhanced connection to wellness providers, more of enhanced visibility to office cleaning staff, more access to daylight and fresh air to promote well-being. So when we started to look at planning, here's the thing, we made up the rules, so there are no rules with this concept planned. We wanted something that was scalable and generic enough that our clients could see themselves in the space. And we also wanted something that we could get excited about as well. Since shelter in place has begun for all of us in March, I feel like we're getting more and more comfortable with working from home, and we really don't see that trend going away anytime soon. We know that there will be downsizing, and that gives us the opportunity to build dual functions into spaces and have them work twice as hard and be very flexible in nature. I mean, even a few weeks ago, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, and other CEOs are announcing that a lot of their employees can work from home indefinitely if they choose to. And as you start to look at this floor plan, you'll notice that we have a lot less workstations. We're promoting more of an active-based work style with work points. So what that means is that instead of each employee having a traditional seat at the desk, a seat at the conference room, and a seat in the open collaboration space, we feel like those three things are three separate work points, and in this kind of work anywhere type of plan. And when we are reimagining the plan of the future, we wanted to make sure that we took a look at a lot of the spaces that you would see in a typical office, and also including some new innovative type of ideas like a wellness bar, including hand washing stations, even virtual food trucks. And then, so what does this reimagined office start to look like in 3 dimension? This axon really starts to bring the plan to life. Not only did we want to get excited about this plan, but we also wanted our clients, brokers, whoever really sees this presentation to get excited, to really be able to see themselves in this type of workspace. As you can see, we've included a lot of outdoor spaces. We even have an indoor atrium space because we feel like there's going to be an even stronger connection to nature in the new future office. And we understand that this type of plan, having so many outdoor spaces, may not work for all of our clients based on, where they are in the country. But in the Bay Area, we definitely have that access. And at the end of this presentation, we'll show you a walkthrough so you can get a better sense of what it feels like to really move throughout the space. So next we wanted to take a look at what does that arrival really mean. So we took a look at the visitors lobby, and we feel like this should be a calm and welcoming environment. We're already thinking that we would have lots of touchless technology. It would be completely automated to get through this space. But we still wanted to have that kind of human connection. We didn't want this to feel like a very clinical space. So what we're showing is a virtual receptionist. So you do get that human connection, but at a safe manner. And we're starting to introduce these hand washing stations throughout the spaces. And once again, we didn't want this to feel medical. We wanted this to feel sculptural, architectural, more kind of beautiful in nature. And then taking a look at the other side of the visitors lobby, we wanted to create a space for PPE provisions, and this could be something if the client chooses to have this item branded. We also wanted to take a look at, well, how could we have a seating or a waiting area in this space? So we started to look at how parks have been designed for decades now, where it may be just these kind of subtle cues, maybe it's an indentation within the seating area. instead of having yellow X's all over the plan.
We wanted to separate the employee experience as well, because we know that they're kind of transitioning into their workday, and we wanted there to be a stopping point from coming in off of the busy city streets into the space. So we wanted this space to have a very spa-like feel. We wanted there to be plenty of spaces for things like bike parking, because we do see that transit and how people are commuting to work is going to shift along with everything else. And we wanted to provide storage for things, with touchless lockers for things like bringing your own keyboard and mouse. Maybe you store that at the office and you come and grab it as you go in, keeping your desk policy clean, which we'll talk about. But then looking at things like providing a central hand washing station, and just overall, again, bringing that light and biophilia element in to create more of a spa-like environment as you come into your office in the morning. And then you're going to be seeing a lot of different types of amenities that may be new. We kind of took the idea of what's been done with IT over the years in an IT help desk and created a wellness bar. And this is really the access to your cleaning staff. So we think that in the future, people are going to want a lot more access. They're going to want to be able to have conversations and really make their cleaning staff part of the team, part of the office, and giving them a front and center space where they can store PPE provisions for employees. You can come and grab green cleaning supplies if you need to wipe down a shared surface or your desk. It really just gives you nice access to them. And of course, as you'll see sprinkled throughout the space, different hand washing stations. We also really wanted to make sure that all of these spaces that we're looking at are dual function. So if this programmatic element goes away in the future or lessens, this space could be utilized as something else. Maybe it's another work point, maybe it's an espresso bar, but just giving it a dual function so that in the future, we're sort of future proofing with some of these amenities.
And next we wanted to look at how could we reimagine what does the open office look like and what does kind of work mean. So talking a little bit more about flexibility and this idea about the workstations. So this is just one particular option, one of many. We know that one size does not fit all. So what we're showing on the left-hand side are 2 6-packs which have that 6-foot social distancing built in and just with a simple spine to provide power. And then in the future, we have the ability to densify. You can see those yellow dots, those represent the densification of those 2 packs. And we're thinking that there would be a clean desk policy. So you would clean your desk when you come into work, and you would also clean as you leave. And we know some people aren't going to feel safe using the, keyboards or mice that have been on the desk all night. So our thought is that you would bring these devices from your home so that you know that you're the only one that had touched these devices. And then really starting to look at what does that open office look like? What could it look like? So introducing things like more ceiling elements with these flexible louvers for fresh air intake. Also a much more greater access to daylight for mental well-being, and also the natural UV light properties as well. And we have been engaging with our MEP consultants. We've been learning what types of systems that they are looking into, and also what types of systems to consider. So in this view, you're seeing an underfloor air distribution system with an overhead air plenum to promote healthy air quality. And then also looking at more subtle ways that we can introduce some things into the office, like open office floor patterns to help direct traffic. Also looking at more of an organic workstation layout with higher desk panels to promote social distancing. You're also starting to get a sense of what this open office could look like, and not just having desks within this space. We've got some library tables, as well as we have some pods in the background and some open collaboration spaces. Really this kind of work anywhere scenario. So depending upon what kind of job you have for the day, if it's more heads down, maybe you want to work in a pod. If you want to meet with some of your coworkers, you can meet in the collaboration space. And then also looking at how can we start to add wider passageways for two-way traffic. Again, we don't want to have yellow tape all over the floor. So we're looking at science-based design, but doing it in a more subtle, more architectural and beautiful way. So it could be something as simple as just changing the color of the material on the floor, just to kind of give that, promoting that two-way traffic. And you'll see in the back of this rendering, we are showing one of our atrium spaces to just have that increased access to daylight and the natural UV light.
We've been talking a lot about, when people do come into the office, how are they planning on using it and how are they planning on coming together? We obviously know that one of the big things we're missing now is coming together and collaborating. We can do a little bit over, remotely, but how do we create an environment that really supports the kind of work that we see and the way that we see people meeting in the future? So flexibility, and we're talking not only in flexibility of the architectural elements, as you see here, we're looking at being able to reconfigure spaces. And again, not necessarily a new technology, but we do really want to start pushing towards making these products, much more functional, easier to use, to be able to divide up the space. So, if you've got different teams coming in, they can easily reconfigure space and it doesn't take, extra team to come in and move some of these things around, but making things really flexible for different teams as they come in and work. And also the technology piece being very flexible. So things that are voice enabled, voice activated, and then, there's lots of different technologies coming out now for virtual whiteboards and how people are connecting to their remote team members. So embedding all of that into these spaces is going to be key to make them, really flexible for whichever team is going to be coming and working that day. And Stephen mentioned our atrium space. We really wanted to create sort of a heart of the space. Not only does it have the open access to light and fresh air, but it really is a central hub for the space. So in this scenario, you could see maybe having an all hands meeting, but it really is a true multi-purpose space and can be reconfigured as well as the rest of the office. And so we started to talk about creating a cultural zone and really having this be the center and the heart of the office. So if you're coming in, if you're a remote worker, if you're just there for the day, or if you're there to meet somebody who's in the office more often, it gives you a place to come together. And, we think company culture is going to be key moving forward. That's definitely something that's impossible to replicate, through remote working. So how can we foster that? How can we create that space that enables them to come together? So maybe you're coming here and you're, working with just a small group of employees and you can reposition the furniture, or is it where you hold your social events? We wanted to create that hub space for that function.
And we did want to include as much glass as possible in this space because not only did we want this kind of central zone to feel like the hub of the space, we wanted that no matter where you were within the open office, you could see the space so you could feel like you were part of that kind of energy of the office.
We also love the opportunity, especially where we're at in the Bay Area, to take advantage of the outdoor space. And so again, not a new concept, but I think what we're going to start seeing is enhancements to these types of spaces so that they really can be considered a work point. So that's providing the infrastructure, providing the connection points for you to be able to take video conference calls outside, to be able to meet with your teams and everybody plug and be able to share content. But really making these spaces even more functional so that your office is not just the footprint of the building you're in, but all of the space that you have access to.
And next we wanted to take a look at some of the typical amenity spaces that you see in an office, as well as how can we increase the access to wellness within the space as well. So we wanted to take a look at pantries first. So what we're calling these pantry nodes. So we would have multiple pantry nodes throughout the floor to help prevent congestion. And we're also thinking that these kinds of spaces would be more no touch. There would be prepackaged snacks and automated drink dispensers, and really just trying to bring the walls down in these spaces. We're already designing pantry spaces that are a little more open. We really wanted to just fully kind of open these up so that you can see kind of what's going on within the office and you can kind of see that energy throughout the space. And then next we wanted to look at cafe and dining, and really what does that mean? So we were looking at this concept of touchless lockers for pre-plated meals, but we also wanted to have an increased amount of glass just for that visual connection to the people that are making your food, just to add that next level of humanity to these types of spaces. And looking at furniture that encourages dining while allowing for social distancing. It could be something as simple as these flexible dividers that we're showing in the space. And then when social distancing starts to relax, we have the opportunity to densify this location. And also, we wanted to bring a little bit of fun and whimsy into this space. You know, a lot of our clients do have food trucks, so we wanted to reimagine this and how could we do this a little more virtually. So we're looking at something that's more digital with these automated vending stations, and all the food would be ordered through an app. So when you would get notification that this is ready, and you would go pick up your food. And we're also thinking that the menu items could be rotated out regularly.
We talked a lot in the beginning about how we're incorporating health and wellness. One of the amenities that we think is going to become more prevalent is the space for you to connect to any of your medical care providers. And so we've created a well clinic. And this is really, it could be many different room types. You could maybe have a nurse come on site once a week for consultations. You could have spaces where people can come in and do their diagnostic results. Those get directly sent to the doctor, and then you can go into a meeting room and have a virtual appointment with your doctor, whether it's a medical care professional or a mental health professional. But it gives you the ability to have access to that within your own office. And so instead of going to a crowded hospital, you can come into your office and have that same amenity. We also think this would be a great space instead of having a large gym type of a facility, that you could provide smaller spaces here for meditation and yoga rooms. You can connect people to remote instructors, and all of these different elements really support and promote well-being for your employees. Always a fun topic, restrooms, but we really love this idea of taking something that has been traditionally done in the same way for many years and really starting to push it forward and thinking about what the future is going to hold. And so not only do we want to get this in front of designers, but we want to start talking to developers and to the city building departments to start looking at the way that these restrooms are designed and built. This is the idea that all restrooms in the future will be gender neutral, or all gender restrooms. Single-use restrooms, everything can be fully automated and touchless, which gives us the ability to keep them very clean, but it also provides more of a universal design where people, everybody kind of gets access to the same type of environment. You can circulate around it. You don't have to worry so much about all the different lines. And we love the idea of some of these smaller spaces being optimal for things like UV sanitization. So these higher sanitization techniques that are better for smaller spaces could be really well utilized here, in something that traditionally, the cleanability of it is definitely something people are going to want to, and people are going to be expecting.
So next we wanted to take a look at what is the beyond. So the next series of slides are essentially a collection of thought-provoking ideas. Some of them may work for some clients, some of them may not work for any clients, but we just wanted to get the conversation started, to get that conversation going. So the first idea is this idea of the human stare, and this idea really comes from the fabric of life, the DNA molecule. So it's a single direction stare in both ways, and it's a very interesting way to kind of move through the space and see the space, as well as see who's moving on the other side of the staircase. And we talked a little earlier about different HVAC models that we have been talking to our MEP engineers about. And so this idea of the underfloor raised air supply, so the healthy air is coming underneath, and then it's being sucked up into the return air plenum above, and then being taken out. And we know that hospitals do the reverse method than this, so there are a lot of different models out there at this moment. And this type of system we know is more prevalent in Europe and Asia, and we do know that this is a more expensive system to go with, but we are starting to see this a little bit more prevalent in US projects.
We also know that there's going to be a certain client type that requires everybody to be in the office, and that they really can't get away from it. They're going to have to stay densified. And how do we prepare for that? How do we do that in a safe way? So we're looking at the idea of work pods, and that's really being able to provide people a safe environment, but increase the transparency so that people really do feel connected to the rest of the office. You still are able to see your coworkers. It's a familiar setting, but it's done in a little bit safer of a manner. And in extreme conditions, you would be able to add HVAC in here, and each room could have its own ventilation if it needed to. So I think the flexibility of this model to be able to allow some people to come a little bit closer, but still have that peace of mind.
Yeah, and we also wanted to keep this as transparent as possible, so that not only can you see your neighbor in this as well, but you're not losing any of that light that's coming into the open office.
And then this was an idea that we have been talking about, knowing that we're coming and going in and out of the office, and how do we provide an opportunity that is a beautiful architectural gesture, but that provides that, cleaning opportunity. And so this is the idea of a portal that you can walk through that uses mist sanitization as a cleansing method. And this sort of thing is actually done in a much less beautiful way in places like high traffic areas, like Hong Kong Airport has booths that you're able to kind of go through this process. But we wanted to kind of take an architectural spin and almost create, something exciting and interesting for the front area and the entry experience. And so, we imagine biophilia can be a part of this, and in the future, this could become a nice sitting area or just a nice entry into your space.
And then the last piece is really the walkthrough throughout this open office. So at this point, we'd like to just have this walkthrough play in the background and then really open it up for questions at this time.
It starts to give you a sense of how spaces are adjacent to each other, and a little bit of a day in the life as you're moving through the space.
Yeah, right now you're walking through the employee entrance. And then emerging into the open office with the health bar on the left. And then you've got one of our pantry nodes on the right.
We've been talking a lot about the open office as well, and what is that going to look like? I think here we're showing some more traditional examples of different furniture types, but I think the flexibility of the open office and the ability for you to kind of configure the space as you need it to, as your teams come in and how they're meeting together, is going to definitely be very prevalent. And so working with our furniture partners is going to be exciting on how we can, connect to infrastructure, but still maintain that flexibility in the open office.
And then as we're coming down here, we'll start to walk into the cafe. And those were the touchless lockers on the left-hand side that we discussed. And more of the access to the staff that's making your food. And then we start to walk out to one of our outdoor areas.
So we've started to get some good questions in. And so Michelle and Stephen, one of the first ones we got was, what are you doing and how are you revisioning your San Francisco office? And have you come across some challenges?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a hot topic that we're all discussing. We're actually looking at a very similar scenario of how can we take the existing space and the furniture that we have and reimagine the way that we're working. And so as we've become more mobile and as some of our technologies have been upgraded to let us work remotely, we have the option of coming in and using the office in a different way. And so we're looking at how do we create, similar to what we're doing here, different work points. So instead of traditionally coming in and sitting at your desk, you have options for where you can sit. And maybe that in the near future will look like removing some of our workstations to create some of these additional work points so that you have the opportunity and the variety of choice. I think it's really coming into the office, you want to be comfortable, right? You want to come in and have a reason to be there, and being able to choose where you sit, being able to choose the days that you come in and your team can meet together is something that we're actively working on and looking at for the future.
Great. So when starting off with this, what was one of the most challenging things that you faced when just thinking about the future?
Aaron's on mute.
Aaron, you're on mute.
I think this is a living thought, and it can go on forever. And we're constantly getting new information. In fact, when you're looking at this presentation, it's generational, where it's actually been improved upon and all that. I think the big challenge was to stop the conversation and design. and sort of do it in a way that was still looking ahead to potentially solve other issues or research other things that come up or new information, but still put the package together. And I feel like that was one of our biggest challenges. As I said, we're creative and we just keep thinking about all kinds of things, and it's never ending. So I never feel like it's completed, even though we say thank you to you here. It is really not completed, and we just keep going.
And that's a good point, Aaron. We were getting so bogged down with so much negativity. As you know, we've all seen the same kind of 6 to 8 bullet points. We really wanted to put something out there that was hopeful and beautiful and bright, so that we do see the future of architecture.
It's really looking beyond the current situation too. You know, this is one of many things, many possibilities that could happen in the future, and definitely things that you can't necessarily plan for. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing recently is about going back to the office. What is going back to our environment going to look like? What does the next 1 to 2 years look like? We wanted to imagine beyond that. Like, what are we seeing that are going to be lasting trends? You know, every time there's a pandemic or a big, you know, thing that happens in the world, there are immediate effects and there are long-term effects. And we're trying to look at things that we already saw becoming trends, but that we know are going to be pushed even further. We're watching technology as it changes and embedding that as well. And so it's not about the immediate reaction of putting up plastic panels everywhere. It's beyond that. What is the future of the office going to look and feel like? And how can we design a space to support the new type of work that we're seeing, the new way of work that we're seeing?
So question kind of in regards to that, Michelle, someone wrote, just in regards to kind of the furniture vendor and dealer, you brought that up, and how do you see that role changing with all of this?
I think we're hoping for a partnership of even more of a partnership than we already have, which is really starting to look at getting a better understanding of how our users are looking to reconfigure the space, how often it's happening, ease of use, that sort of thing, and being able to give feedback to the vendors and design with them, looking at all of these different system types, making, you know, adjustments if we need to based on things that we're hearing directly from our clients, and really being able to, you know, take what we already know and the products that are currently available and pushing the boundaries even further to make them more flexible, even more user-friendly. And hopefully we'll be getting a lot of insight into, you know, as people start to settle into this new way of working, this work points idea way of working, maybe coming in on at different times, we'll start to get a lot of data and really be able to create an even deeper partnership with our furniture vendors.
Great. And so I think we have time for one more question. So one of the last questions we have is, this assumes a lot of physical space is available to the client. How do you propose scaling this to an urban commercial environment?
Good question. That question that notices the fact that we set the ideal scenario. It's a place with all kinds of land. It's a place with all kinds of outdoor access. It's one story. We didn't have to deal with being a tenant in a high rise and having to deal with the building management access, which is different from the tenant's access in terms of safety and those kinds of things, which is what we're actually dealing with in our facility in San Francisco. I thought we thought, again, this is actually one of the things that we debated about quite a bit when we were developing this, is certain things we kind of had to ignore to get this out. And we also felt that of the 15 to 20 ideas that we've put forward, 5 doesn't work because I have an urban scenario and you're not going to be able to do that. 5 would be, oh, I think I can do that. It's a little bit more expensive, but I'll have to make adjustments in order to do that. And 5 will be, I can do that right away. So we're hoping that is the thought process that one goes through when they look at this. Having said that, we're imagining that, we were theorizing that one day in the future, and being very positive about the future, is that one day there may be a building safe certified building thing process in the future. Can you imagine the first time somebody said, I have a LEED platinum building, and that marketing ability and the ability to attract tenants that want to do that? We were thinking beyond that and going, okay, well, now given the current situation, what if there was and assume that there was a group that organized a safe building certificate, and a developer came in and did a building, a high-rise building that had potentially distance access, elevators, all those kinds of things, restrooms, single, gender neutral restrooms that meet code, and we work with the building departments to change the code, because the current building departments don't actually accept those in that manner. It just changes the whole thought process in that regard.
Great, thank you. So that kind of resumes our 30-minute webinar. I want to thank Aaron, Michelle, and Stephen for joining us and sharing their insights on the future of architecture and design in the workplace. Historically, our cadence for these workplace live chats has been every week. We are now changing them to be on a monthly platform. And next month, we'll actually have Professor of Interior Design History at San Jose State, Liz Carroll, chatting with industrial designer Luca Nicchetto on the important role design has played historically on being a catalyst for change and how it's even more prevalent now. And so just wanted to thank you all for tuning in. And until next month, I hope you all stay safe, connected, and inspired. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.